Hey everyone, Reid with Valley Ridge, and the purpose of today's video is to talk to the younger people in this country and kind of set the record straight on something. I don't think that you're probably going to get a fair shake if you're in public school. I used to teach public school. I was a public school teacher for over 3 years, and I taught hundreds of students. And I will tell you this right now, that there are some very good school teachers out there that are still in the school system in both public and private schools. There are some atrocious teachers out there who are still in front of students teaching them all kinds of things. So the purpose of this video is to address those younger folks and even those people in their mid to late 20s and even younger than that. So let's go ahead and get started. There's a huge trend, and this is very disturbing to me and to many other people, that there's this disturbing trend that you have political candidates that are moving further and further and further to the left. And by left, it's a very broad term, but generally speaking, what we mean by that is people that want big government. They want big government, growing government, to not only give services, but to also regulate and control areas of industry and business and commerce and all of those areas put together. Now, the thing is that they tend to fool younger people. They tend to fool, and not just younger people, but people in general. They tend to fool them into thinking if you just vote for us, you'll get all this stuff, because we're the ones that care about you. We're the only benevolent people in the country, because anybody else that's in politics must be evil. You know, especially those old Republicans and all those libertarians and all those other people that just so horrible. Well, here's the problem. I'm sure that if you grew up in public school, and if you maybe even in some private schools, that you've learned how great that certain government programs are. Unfortunately, that goes directly against the United States Constitution, and unfortunately it goes against every aspect of government that the founders of this nation wanted to bring about. See, the purpose of government is not to give you things. The purpose of government is to protect your life, protect your liberty, and protect your pursuit of happiness, which is seeking property and to not only develop your property, but to improve it. Now, the issue is that government should stay away from those things. They should stay out of your life unless they are actually implementing powers that they are specifically granted in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Read it sometime. Read those list of powers that are in Article 1, Section 8. Tell me where the Department of Education falls into that. Tell me where a lot of the other departments fall into it. It doesn't. And you look at the government, folks, you have to look at it, as George Washington said, you have to look at it like fire. A horrible, horrible servant and a fearful master. Fire can be good. If you get close to it, it will warm you. If you get too close to it, it will engulf you in flames. And if you have to think about the role of government in your life, I want to teach you something very important here. That the government that can give you everything can take everything away from you. Its role isn't to give you things. It is not your mother or your father. It is not your friend. In fact, at best, it's an uneasy alliance. You have to look at this in terms of human nature, and you have to look at countries where there is heavy-handed government at play. Now, I will tell you some allegories and give you a list of some books that I would highly recommend that you read that illustrate this concept very clearly. The first book that I would really recommend reading is Animal Farm by George Orwell. A lot of people will minimize that book and say that that book is simply an allegory of the Soviet Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution. They'll say that that is a metaphor, an allegory of what the actual Soviet Revolution was. Well, I guess that's partially true, but I think it's much more true on a much broader scale of what happens when you have these revolutions, generally speaking. What you'll have is they'll have revolutionaries fighting for this, fighting for that. They'll take over a government, and with all the promises of a bright new future, all the promises of making a better life, all the promises of, oh, it'll be so much better if we just overthrow the existing system and implement a new one. Well, I'm not going to give away the ending of the book. I want you to read that for yourself. But that has happened with leftist, socialist, communist revolutions all across the globe. It's so reliably predictable that when you read the book, I think you'll get it. The other books I want you to read, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. In a world which is a dystopian future, as all of the ones I'm about to mention are, in the dystopian future, government, everybody's placated and satiated, government's heavy-handed, but everybody's got what they wanted, but are they truly human beings? Are they truly fulfilled? Did government fulfill its role, and what was its eventual goal? I'm not going to give away the ending to that book either. The other book that you should probably read is 1984, another book by George Orwell. A much bleaker picture of the future in which heavy-handed government is in control. Of course, we could even invoke Ray Bradbury in Fahrenheit 451 if you really wanted to read a good book. So the lesson for all you people out there watching this video is this. You're going to see all these bright, young, leftist, socialist candidates coming, running for office that are going to promise you the world. That are going to promise that they're just like you. But what you're going to find is that they're people completely devoid of any real experience of leadership, completely devoid of running a business, completely devoid of any understanding of human nature. And I think if you dig deeper, what you're going to find is a lust for power, a desire for being relevant, and quite honestly, folks, and the most disturbing thing about it is that they might even believe that they're doing good. The road to hell was paved with good intentions, and I can most assuredly tell you this, that if you seek a world of equality by government, everybody's going to be quite unequal, because there's nothing more inefficient, there is nothing more disorganized, and there is nothing more dangerous than a large government. And I think history bears this out, and that my case against a big government has quite honestly been documented over the centuries, over the millennia, if you will. Because socialism has a record of failure that is so abysmal that only an intellectual or naive individual could even still believe in this day and age that it could work. If you found the information helpful, subscribe to my channel. If you want to support my work, also check out the link to Patreon down below. And if you really want to learn how to protect freedom, if you want to learn how to defend this, if you want to learn how to invoke and maintain your God-given right to self-defense, come on out to Valley Ridge and we can teach you to do just that. This is Reid Henrichs with Valley Ridge reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.